Welcome back to part 2 of this week's episode of Leading Our Own Way, featuring our special guests. Now let's dive right back into the conversation and continue exploring their incredible journey. Let's bring it back to you. Let's bring it back to what we've mentioned the book, but it's crystal clear why Andrea is so caring. But we'll connect the dots now. Let's talk about you and what are you doing before we dive into your past. Other than the book, how would you say you're leading your own way?
Other than the book?
Yeah.
I'm leading my own way because through all of this, the love and the bond that I have with Andrea, that we have, is eternal, and it's untouched by death. And that is my beacon. That is my, in the distance, it's always there in my vision. It's there in my heart. So that's leading me. If I didn't learn over the years how to focus and completely focus on that love and not the grief, then I wouldn't be here. So that gives me the hope, and every day, I reach for that hope, and I'm creating my own hope every day, because I'm honoring her every day.
Yeah, I remember I wrote these powerful words down that you said to me last time we met, and you said saying, and this is connected to what you just said, but you said saying yes to live. I don't even remember saying those words to me.
Saying yes to life. I've chosen
to life. Well, to live, to life, yeah.
To life and to live, right?
That's right.
There was, I've experienced it all. And, there was a time I was at the fork in the road where I didn't want to be here, and I was going to end it. And
so you got close? Yes, sorry, let's dive there then. Let's go into that a little bit. You were suicidal? You had suicidal thoughts?
I was very close. I had disappeared. Didn't want to be around anybody. My husband didn't know where I was. All I did was go down to the end of the road, and at that time, there were train tracks there, and people would go down with their dogs and go for a walk. And I got someone to get a bottle of wine for me, and I went down there, and I just wanted to go and be in my world of grief alone, and drank my wine. And I was sitting down beside this big huge boulder, and I had my empty bottle, and I thought, I could end this pain once and for all right now. I could smash the bottle, I could cut myself, and I wouldn't have to wake up one more day with this agony. But I guess I prayed to God help me, as I had many, many times. And then I remembered, I need to be here. I need to be here. There was a little flicker of life still left in me, in my broken life, and in my brain that was completely disoriented from grief. And there was a little bit of life there, and I chose not to do it. And it was like I heard Andrea's voice saying, "No, Mama, you need to be there for Tristan." I love my husband and my family, but Tristan being my one little piece of her. And I decided to say yes to life. And that was probably the lowest part of my journey.
Yeah. It is, people often say, you've got plenty to live for. As you well know, you've got plenty to live for as the people you've just mentioned. But when you're in that really dark space, they don't enter your head, do they? In whether it's the walk to the train lines, whether it's sitting on the boulder and drinking your wine. A few guests have mentioned that they've not thought about their loved ones. It's not that they don't love them; they just in that moment don't think nor care about that for a moment.
Like I don't know a lot about suicide, but I I remember that I don't want to die. I don't want to leave this world. I love my family. I don't want to die. I love life, but I just can't take this pain anymore. I cannot live with this pain one more second. And here I am almost 13 years later. But I'm stronger now. I've been saying I am stronger now than I was when Andrea was here because I have rebuilt my life and this new me is stronger than before the accident, which is,
Wow.
I
Yeah,
can't
that's
believe I'm
powerful.
saying that, but it is true. I have my down days,
Mm.
these last few weeks are difficult, and I allow myself to go there. I allow myself to go to bed if I need to and to cry, but I know that I can pick myself up from it because I have before, and I'm determined that I
Yeah.
will. So I allow grief to have its little space for a while. And then I say, no, you can't take up much more space. Love has to take over now.
What a powerful message to everyone that's listening. Though, you've lost one of the most precious things in your life, yet you're the strongest you've ever been. I'm guessing you had never had a trauma like that. Well, I'm not guessing. I know you didn't have a
Not
trauma like
like
that.
that. I mean, I
Yeah,
had my grief that I had experienced was my mother, and I loved her, and we were extremely close. You
of
know,
course.
at the time, I thought, I'm not going to make it. I can't get through this. Um, but I had my two girls at the time, and I was a single mom. And I remembered my mom's words, saying to me, because I would say to her, what would I ever do if anything happened to you? And she'd say, you will be fine because you've got your girls. And so many times I would remember her words, and, I got through that. And it was trauma, but on a different level,
Yeah,
complete different
it's a
level.
different sort, isn't it?
It didn't,
Absolutely.
I mean, somebody asked me the other day, did that prepare you? In some way, did it prepare you? And, nursing for 37 years and holding the hand of someone that's passing on and, being there supportive, supporting the family. And, did that help you? And no, nothing, nothing in this world could prepare you for losing your child. Nothing.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that takes that's a safe message within itself, isn't it? It doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter what purpose you lead.
Hmm.
If you lose someone like that, nothing prepares. So the feelings that you go through, the emotions that you go through after the loss of someone, to acknowledge it, it's okay what you feel. That in itself is powerful. What you're going through is normal, isn't it? It's
Hmm.
it's horrible. It's huge.
Hmm.
But I think it. I don't even know how to say it because I've never been through it. But
Well,
do
grief
you?
is ugly,
Yeah,
I wrote a little, I find it's interesting. Andrea loved to read, and I believe she wanted to be a journalist, so she liked writing, and I have now gone down that road, which is really interesting. And there are some days when I'm not feeling the greatest, and so it's therapeutic to sit down and write and type
yeah,
at the computer. And I've been writing this little, I guess it's a poem about what grief is, right? And it's many things. It's ugly.
mm,
It rips it took my insecurity away. It's a thief. It took my daughter in the middle of the night when I wasn't expecting it, right? And it's all of those things. But then after living through it, grief is also a teacher,
yeah.
and it's taught me to value life. It's taught me to appreciate the small things in life, to walk outside and listen to the birds chirping, you know, to enjoy the giggles of children in a different way that I never experienced before. So it's ugly, but it teaches.
Do you feel safe in whenever you feel down now and you go through those dark moments? Do you now look at it differently or feel differently about it? Do you feel safe sitting in those dark moments? Whereas before, I'm guessing you didn't in
Oh,
following.
before it was, like falling in a black hole, a big pit, I
Yeah.
think I described some of this in my book that, when it comes, you fall. And, it's like if you were in this physically in this you fell down into this big dark hole, you'd be digging and clawing your way back to try and get out, and not being able to breathe. And that's what it feels like. It feels like I'm never going to get out of this black hole. But over time is a great teacher too. Time teaches you, and after experiencing that over and over and over, you learn. And yes, you learn to trust yourself that I can do this. I can do this because I want to be here and I want to live, and I've chosen life, and I love my grandchildren, and I have so many things so many things I have to do. So I trust myself in my grief because I won't let it control me. I'll let it have its space, but it won't control my life.
That in itself is what we need to help people understand, don't we, in the world, is
And it's
let it
not
have its
easy.
space, sit in
It's
it,
not
notice it.
easy. It's not an
No.
easy task. It's the most difficult work to ever do. Grief is hard work,
Mm.
but you're not going to see the flicker of hope until you do that hard work. You need to shed those tears. You need to cry. You need to scream. You need to yell. Even now, I'll be having a bad day, or some trigger will happen that, everything is going fine. And then maybe, I don't know, there was a smell or music or someone that looked like her, or could be anything. Triggers just come out of nowhere. And I just sit in the parking lot of the grocery store, and if it's before I go in or after, I'll sit in my car, and then I just have my crying and scream and yell, and I don't care who sees me, and I just release all of those emotions and the anger, pounding my hands on the steering wheel, and I just let it all out. And then I'm ready to take on the next storm that comes.
And do you still do things like that now?
I still do that. Yeah. The
Yeah.
frequency is different, as time
Yeah.
goes on. Um, there's the frequency becomes less, um, but it's still unexpected and unpredictable just when you're not expecting it. And so many times I'll say, wow, I thought I was really doing good today, and then what happened?
Yeah.
But grief just becomes part of your life. um, it's like, um, it's interesting. I have a little puppy. Well, I say he's a little puppy because he's small, but he's 4 years old, and he's a Yorkie. And still to this day, he hates his harness. And when I put his harness on him, I have to chase him through the house to get his harness to go for a walk. And when I put the harness on him and he goes outside, he's shivering, he's doing all of that anxiety stuff, like, what are you doing to me? And I don't know, he's never been, that's just him. So I take him outside, and he's a complete different animal. It's like, wow, I'm free. I can go and explore, and I can be a dog. And he completely forgets about the harness. So I say grief is like a harness, like it's on me, it's in me, it's part of me. And I just have to walk my life living with it. And it's
Yeah.
going to bend in every motion, every direction that I bend, and sometimes it's going to feel really, really crappy. And those are the bad days. And then when I just forget about that or work through it, then I just go on and go into the grocery store, and, you know, um, I take over. Grief doesn't take over. You learn to live with it.
That's a great way of looking at it, to be honest. I mean, with the dog, I know I'm not here to advise you about the dog, but could you pick him up, take him outside, put the harness on him outside so he doesn't feel that moment before he goes out, maybe?
Um,
Or
yeah,
does that
I
not work?
suppose I could. I suppose I could. He's a funny little dog.
Mhm.
He, from, the time you put a harness on dogs and teach them how to walk, like he was, I don't know, 2 months old. He wouldn't even leave the backyard. I'd put the harness on and he would be frozen. And then I had to throw treats on the ground to get him out of the backyard and open the gate. And then I had to throw treats on the ground to get him out of the driveway onto the road. Like, and I've never had a dog do that. Just,
Yeah.
we're all different. Animals are all different.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So going back to the you being the strongest you've ever been, it's obviously coming up to the anniversary of Andrea's passing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you prepare being that strongest person? Does each year look different? Does it feel different? Are you stronger every year that passes leading up to this time of year? People tend to struggle at this time of year, don't they, when they think about past ones, even when they pass in the middle of the year. It's the
Christmas
event
is not
itself,
special
isn't
for
it?
everybody, right?
Yeah.
Christmas is not exciting for everyone, and
No.
people have to realize that, right? And it's not just Christmas; it's any holiday, right? But for me, in particular, Christmas is the one that I'm facing now. I mean, I managed to get through Thanksgiving, but somehow that doesn't seem to be. I mean, everybody is different, but for me, Christmas was always big in our house. And, Christmas Eve, we would get together as a family and go to the Christmas service, candlelight service at church, and come back and have cheese fondue and chocolate fondue. And everybody would just open their first gift. And Christmas to Andrea was, special. She loved Christmas. So it's difficult. I Every, there, I never know what each year is going to bring. Some people might say, "Oh, well, it's coming up on 13 years. You're used to this now." It was just last week I was going through a horrible time, and I was telling my husband, "I don't know. I don't know, like, what's happened this year. It seems worse this year than last year." And I think that's just because last year's gone and this year is here.
Yeah.
I don't know, but some years they're all difficult, but some seem to be really, really, really bad. And this, for some reason, this year seems to be a really bad one. So I've just learned over the years that after Halloween, I start my Christmas shopping. That's my signal that, okay, over the next 2 weeks in November, I need to have all my shopping done, and I get all my gifts wrapped by the end of November is my month. No matter what I'm struggling, how I'm struggling, I get through it, but I prioritize and say my grandchildren and my family, they need to be taken care of, and I do that. And then I allow December for me so that I don't have to sit there and say, I'm closer to that date now and I know how difficult it's going to be. So if I want to be in bed one day, I don't have to be feeling guilty that I need to do shopping or I need to do this or
Yeah.
so it's a matter of planning. That's what I've managed to do, to plan and allow myself December. That's my month where I can just be me.
Yeah.
And heaven help that person that says anything to me, like if I'm invited for dinner, it's about setting boundaries, right? And if I'm invited for dinner on December 16th and I say, yeah, okay, I'm going to come, but, December 16th in the morning comes and I'm like, whoa, that big cloud is just about smothering me and I have to phone and cancel, and so be it. It's my grief, my unique journey. Nobody understands that. So I'm the only one that can take care of me.
Have you ever had that feeling? You mentioned before about people going, it's been 13 years. It must be getting easier now. Do you sense that from people, or do people actually say
Nobody's
it to you?
actually said it to me.
Okay.
I sense it and feel it because that's what society gives the impression that you get through your grief, you get over it, after the funeral, people hang around friends and family, but I mean everybody has to go back to their life and everybody has to go back to their jobs, and then you're left dealing with the loss. So society, what do they, when you're working, they give you what, 3 days bereaved days off work? I don't know what what it is where you are, but if someone is working here, you get 3 days off. If you lose your father, your mother, or whoever, 3 days off with pay. And then after that, it's like, go back to work. So that's that's what society says. You just have to move on and deal with it. Right?
It's mental, isn't it? 3 days. And is that the same for losing your daughter as well? Three days.
Oh yeah, it would be 3 days. I never returned to work. I was 57 years old, and we had our plans. We're going to work till 65, and you set your goals. My husband and I, and I was community nursing, going into people's homes and looking after the elderly and making sure their pill boxes were filled up and checking their blood pressures and looking after Mr. Smith's infected toe because he's diabetic, and I had no empathy to do any of that after. My world was crushed. My world was shattered. So I didn't return to work. And I guess, I'm blessed and I'm fortunate because I have a husband. I had a husband at the time, that so the income was not an issue. But for a lot of people, financial issues, like for instance, when I lost my mom, I took 2 weeks off work and I had to go back to work. I was a single mom with 2 kids and I had no choice. It was a different situation. And I remember going to work and just, I'd look after a patient and that patient reminded me of my mother, and I'd go to the bathroom and have my let down in the bathroom and then go back at it again. Society's expectations are really, there really needs to be more awareness for grief.
Yeah. And this is what part of my journey is people feeling safe and being looked after and led with inspiration. And my trauma is, I always I shouldn't rank trauma, and I don't. After a guest told me there's no ranking on trauma, because when I speak to people like yourself, I feel like my trauma is nowhere even close. But I was bullied in the workplace coming up to 10 years ago, and I really struggled with that. And somebody recently, obviously I won't mention names for their safety, but somebody that I know somewhere I work had lost a family member through mental health issues, and that's in the last week. So I saw the effect on some of the work colleagues, even though they never met that person who'd passed. But I just said, I really hope this place looks after that person and makes them feel that they shouldn't rush back to work, whether it's a week, 2, or finish off this year before coming back next year. I just really, really hope the leaders make that person feel safe in sitting in their emotions and don't put any whatsoever pressure on them to want to come back. Obviously, I don't know their financial circumstances and stuff like that, like you just mentioned, but I feel sick at the thought of them coming back.
There's so many factors, like financial, it's having to financially go back to work after loss is a big pressure, right? But I mean, that's not necessarily society, that's like a personal thing, but yeah, society, I feel that for instance, even my own family, I'm not going to say which members of the family, but it's like, so why, basically, like, why are you doing this? I remember saying to one of my family members that I was doing a podcast, and I got off the podcast. This was just part of our conversation. And I got off the podcast and I said, oh, it was a really tough one. And, I had to cry and all this kind of stuff. And the person said to me, well, why do you do it? And I said, well, because I want to talk about my daughter. I want to help other people, but I want to talk about Andrea. I want to talk about my daughter. And if that brings tears, then so be it. Don't you talk about your children? Don't you talk about so-and-so? And I named off all. And I said, because they're here and Andrea's not here physically, does that mean I'm going to stop talking about her? right? So I got the impression that, don't even bother do this type thing. Like, why are you doing that to yourself?
I'm hoping that came from a part of them that were looking out for you to maybe try and think to a message to you like, well,
Maybe.
don't hurt yourself then. Please don't do this to yourself. I'm hoping that's the
I think that's
angle.
probably what it was. I'm
Mm,
sure that it came from a good place, but me, I guess I'm still a little defensive and a little, I don't look at it that way. I was
yeah,
offended
yeah,
by it,
uh,
right? Instead of saying, wow, I'm really proud of you. Look at
yeah,
what you're doing. Good for you. Like, good for you, Linda. No. So
yeah.
I took it negatively. Maybe it wasn't meant to be negatively.
Having said that, I know I always about perspective, but I completely agree with you because people say that to me about doing the podcast. They're like, well, why are you doing this? Why don't you just go back to full-time teaching and so you're financially secure?
Hmm.
Because I don't want to go in that rabbit hole. I know my purpose, and
Hmm.
and when we talk about workplace bullying, they say to me, "Oh, is it? Are you sure you just didn't get along with this person?" Well, hold on a second. I was 32 at the time. I'm 40, nearly 41 in a matter of weeks. There's been plenty of people I've not got along with in life. I can
Hmm.
clearly identify the difference between not getting along with somebody and
Oh,
somebody out there to get me and to break my soul and bring me down day after day. I'm okay with not getting along with somebody. I am not okay with somebody trying to take my
there's a
soul
difference
from me.
between personality clashes
Yeah,
and someone who's actually putting you down, pulling you down, trying to
absolutely.
nail you to the cross.
Yeah. And I've had people close to me, well, not so much close to me, but, in the realm of things, say to me, oh, man up. Oh, move past it now. No, okay. This is how I'm moving past it because I want to meet people like yourself who
Hmm.
can give to the world and
Hmm.
show that whatever we've been through, there are choices. We
Hmm.
can make choices. You at that train station, that train line, made a choice that night. You almost
Yeah.
made the wrong choice, you've made a different choice, and
Yeah.
and that's the powerful pivotal moment in your journey that I want other people to see, so they
Yeah.
don't necessarily go through that, or they can understand that somebody close to them is doing something like this or going through something like this. If they can support them, whether it's meaning sit there and hold space for them, whether it means sending them to this podcast and listen to people like yourself, or
Hmm.
I've got a couple of workplace bullying episodes coming up that I'm recording and releasing, and obviously that's close to, I mean, everything's close to my heart, but
Yeah,
that
but that's
one I
something
can,
that you have experienced for
yeah,
sure, right? Yeah.
exactly, that I can
Yeah.
relate to. But that doesn't mean I won't go through something like yourself. I could go through what you're going through
Hmm. Hmm.
right now, right? One day
Yeah.
that could happen to me. And like you said before, will this chat prepare me for that emotionally? Probably not. Nothing can
Probably
prepare.
not.
Yeah,
No.
probably
No.
not, because I will never be able to sit in it. And, hopefully if it did, I'd get on the phone to you, Linda, and go, Linda, I need you right now. Can you
I'm
support, can
crushed.
you?
I'm crushed. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
And,
crushed and
I
just,
think that's really important, talking, like when it comes to healing that, you, reach out to someone and that, you find support somewhere and some understanding, um, because it is a very lonely, isolated, feeling to
yeah,
be sitting there dealing with such deep grief, depression, and all of those things. And sometimes just to have somebody listen. I really, really relied in my first year on a stepdaughter. Well, I call her, she is a stepdaughter, but she's my daughter. And she lives like 2 provinces away. So I don't know, 3,000 miles, let's say. And I would phone her and I would be just completely in a mess and of course apologizing. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be crying so much. I'm sorry, I should. And she would say, no, 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 there's no apologies necessary. And she would just sit there and listen to me,
yeah,
and she would just listen, and sometimes for an hour at a time. And she became a real support system, a support person for me. That's just one example.
mm,
And then I got hooked up with a support group of 5 or 6 women who had experienced the loss of their child. So to be with like-minded individuals, you're going to get the support that you need. And that's what I would recommend for anybody, whether it's one person and then support groups or, Zooms, um, you need to reach out. It it's hard. It's hard to reach out. It takes a brave person to reach out. I attend Zooms now, a couple times a week, and sometimes there's new moms there, and I always make sure that I tell them, they're a mess, they're crying, and I tell them, you know, you have said yes to life. You are, feeling what you're feeling, but it takes bravery. Look at what you've done tonight. You have come here and you've told your story. And that's the first step to acknowledging your pain, acknowledging your suffering, and then reaching out to get support and someone that understands you.
That conversation that you had, who did you say that was? 2
It was
provinces
another
away.
mother.
3,000 miles away. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was talking about a Zoom there,
Yeah,
but
no, I'm going to lead to that.
conversations that I used to have with my daughter.
Your daughter, yeah, that's right. Sorry, you did say your daughter.
Yeah.
That in itself was the beginning, wasn't it, though? If you hadn't maybe done that, it probably wouldn't have started that stronger part of you to go to the groups, which has now led you to being able to be the person who probably helped support you in those groups and giving
Right.
to the others. And that's the line, isn't it? Just it's contribution. It's like that 12th step when you go to a recovery process group.
Yes.
If you're
Yeah.
contributing towards something, that in itself is helping you giving that advice, you even just sitting for somebody else is helping you be compassionate towards yourself
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
making, hopefully helping your journey to a deeper healing. Because I don't believe you'll ever, I mean, you can answer this better than anybody else. Do you ever feel that you'll be 100% yourself again?
Only
Is
when
that
I
the
see
wrong
her
question
again.
to ask? I don't even know.
Only when I see her again.
Join us tomorrow to hear more from today's incredible guests and learn valuable insights to help you lead your own way. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you then.